The mutants of Marvel Comics are many, and they are all pretty unique from one another. There are so many mutants that it's almost hard to keep track of who is and who isn't one. So, to help fix that, today on Top 10 Nerd, we're counting down the top 10 superheroes you never knew were mutants. Number 10, Devil Dinosaur. Let's start from far left field. Devil Dinosaur is, well, a dinosaur, hailing from the alternate reality of Earth 78411, aka Dinosaur World, a universe that exists in the primordial past. Now, in his youth, the Devil Dinosaur faced a close call with the end of his life, nearly consumed by a tribe of ruthless beings known as the Killer Folk, who inhabited this world. However, he was saved by Moon Boy, a young member of a rival tribe to the Killer Folk known as the Small Folk. Now, when Devil Dinosaur was exposed to the relentless flames of the Killer Folk's fiery assault, the fiery baptism triggered a mutation within the dinosaur, granting him extraordinary powers beyond those of his kind. Specifically, it gave him the intelligence of an average human. Now, simultaneously, it also altered his once olive green skin to a striking and vibrant shade of flame red. Other than his intelligence and his red skin, Devil Dinosaur also exhibited unwavering loyalty to his companion, Moon Boy, who he shared a ton of adventures with, even eventually coming over to the main 616 Marvel Universe. Number 9, Madame Webb. I actually completely forgot that this was the case, but Cassandra Webb, who would eventually become Madame Webb, was born a mutant with tremendous telepathic and precognitive powers. Those are some solid powers to have, but she was also born paralyzed and blind, which does complicate things quite a bit. Over time, things got even worse for her physically as she developed myasthenia gravis, a chronic autoimmune disorder in which antibodies destroy the communication between nerves and muscles, resulting in weakness of the skeletal muscles. So, in order to try and help her, her husband built her a life support system that she had to remain attached to. And could you imagine someone loving you so much that they build a life support system for you? I can't. She eventually became involved with Spider-Man, using her powers to fill him in on crimes that she could not physically deal with herself. She also revealed that she knew his secret identity due to her telepathy, making her one of the first people to ever learn Spider-Man's identity. Number 8, Abigail Brand. Abigail Brand burst onto the scene in the astonishing X-Men, where she assumed the leadership of SWORD, or the Sentient World Observation and Response Department, a specialized branch of S.H.I.E.L.D., dedicated to safeguarding Earth from extraterrestrial threats. Now, at first, her relationship with the X-Men was far from amicable, and she had no intentions of collaborating with them. However, her perspective underwent a significant transformation as she grew closer to the X-Men, and particularly sparking a romantic connection between the two. From the get-go, we knew that Abigail Brand was a unique blend of human and alien heritage, but it wasn't until several years into her character's evolution, during the Avengers vs. X-Men epilogue miniseries AVX Consequences, that we all learned of her latent mutant powers. She inherited pyrokinetic abilities from her mutant mother, shedding light on her own dormant mutant potential. But despite her newfound capabilities, Abigail often refrains from wielding her mutant powers when possible, instead relying on her remarkable prowess as an agent. It's also a little hard to call her a hero, but here we are. Number 7. Whizzer. Some of you may be extremely familiar with Whizzer. He's the speedster superhero from Marvel Comics that somehow gained his abilities due to a transfusion from an actual mongoose. It's absolutely whack, and he became incredibly famous for that origin. Not good famous though, like he became a joke, which is probably a big reason that Roy Thomas later explained away that origin, mostly. Thomas's new take on the Whizzer's origin is that the Whizzer was already a mutant with super speed, but it was just that the mongoose blood transfusion, or maybe just the complete and utter shock of getting a transfusion from a mongoose, kickstarted the Whizzer's mutant powers, activating his mutant gene. And that does actually kind of make sense, sort of, I guess, only because the Whizzer's son was also a mutant. I'm not saying the mongoose part of this equation makes any sense though, don't worry. It doesn't. Number 6, Cloak and Dagger. Tyrone Johnson and Tandy Bowen were living on the streets when they were captured and experimented on by one Dr. Simon Marshall. Now, using his new experimental substances, Dr. Marshall had injected Tyrone, Tandy, and a ton of other captured individuals. The rest of the test group did not survive their interaction with the substance, but Tyrone and Tandy's latent mutant genes were activated to create Cloak and Dagger. There was one other who survived, who went by the stolen name of Martin Lee, D and became the villain Mr. Negative, but that's a story for a different time. For our two mutants, Tyrone, aka Cloak, developed a connection to the Dark Force dimension that existed within his cloak and allowed him to teleport, which was tempered by Tandy, aka Dagger's, light-based abilities that she could use as projectiles, which also gave her limited psionic and healing abilities. They are one of the more iconic duos in Marvel Comics, but not a lot of people realize that they are indeed mutants. Number 5. Namor. In 1920, Captain Leonard Mackenzie led a naval expedition to the Antarctic Circle that went pretty sideways and drew the attention of the underwater people known as the Atlanteans. This led to a meeting between Mackenzie and Atlantis' princess, Fen. The two fell in love and had a surface marriage. However, Leonard passed on in an attack from Fen's father, who did not know what had happened to his daughter. In the aftermath, a heartbroken Fen returned to Atlantis pregnant with baby Namor. This made Namor an Atlantean human hybrid, but he is much more than that, as he's also a mutant. This means Namor has a very unique physical makeup. He exhibits the long life and increased strength, stamina, and durability of an Atlantean, though all of those attributes are enhanced due to his human side as well. He possesses aquatic healing, radiation absorption, aquatic telepathy, electrolocation, atmokinesis, and hydrokinesis, but on top of everything else, he can also fly, with the aid of fins on his ankles that look very much like bird wings. And fun fact, he was actually one of the first heroes ever able to fly on his own in comic books. Number 4. Justice. This is probably one of the more unique mutant gene activations. So, picture this. Vance Astrovic, just your average teenager who was secretly being looked out for by the Guardians of the Galaxy of the future, who thought he was in danger because of this bad guy named Korvac. Now, when Vance met his future self, who was a Guardian by the name of Major Victory, who didn't get his mutant gene activated, it kind of freaked Vance out, understandably, and that shock made his mutant power of psychokinesis burst into action. But it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows for Vance. His dad was pretty terrible to him during his younger years, and when he got these powers, it only made things worse. His father was really against mutants and took it out on his own son. So, Vance did what any sane person would do, and he ran away. He had some interesting adventures along the way, like hanging out with the Thing from the Fantastic Four. Now back then, he called himself Marvel Boy and even did some wrestling. Vance really wanted to be an Avenger though, but Captain America told him he needed more practice. Luckily, Night Thrasher and Nova were starting their own superhero team called the New Warriors, and Vance was all in. He quickly became one of their key members, meeting this awesome mutant named Firestar, and they kinda hit it off. Number 3. Vanguard. Nikolai Krylenko had a pretty intense childhood, to put it mildly. His dad, a Russian nuclear physicist, and the government realized that Nikolai and his twin sister had latent mutant abilities. Now for Nikolai, he possesses a mutant energy field that repels virtually all electromagnetic, kinetic, and gravitonic energy, which allows him to create force fields, fly, and redirect any energy repelled by his natural force field back at its source. So from a young age, they were molded into soldiers. They ended up joining the Soviet super soldiers backed by the KGB. Now Nikolai took on the name Vanguard while his sister became Darkstar. They didn't have the friendliest encounters with American heroes, even squaring off with they started off as propaganda villains. But things took a crazy turn when their father got turned into something called the Presence. The government sent Vanguard and Darkstar to take him down, not realizing they were targeting their own dad. Luckily though, they figured that out, and when they did, they were like, nope, not cool, and turned against the Soviet regime. So Vanguard, Darkstar, and another named Ursa Major became their own agents fighting for the good of the people, or trying their best to do so. Number 2. Santa Claus. In Marvel Holiday Special Volume 1, released on November 19th, 1991, with a cover date of December 1991, in a little story called A Miracle a Few Blocks Down from 34th Street, 'twas the day before Christmas, and all through the Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters, Cerebro detected what it called the most powerful mutant ever registered, who had just miraculously appeared in New York's Rockefeller Center. The X-Men obviously went off to investigate, but this massively powerful mutant was also detected by a group of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, who also went to try and capture the mutant for their own evil purposes, resulting in a clash between the two factions. But this mutant just happened to be Santa Claus himself, who used his insane power to briefly transform the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants into toys. He teleported the X-Men away, erased everyone's memory, and then made it snow, giving New York the first white Christmas it's had in a hot minute. Number 1. Miss Marvel. What most people know about Kamala Khan is that she possesses a latent inhuman lineage which was activated by the Terrigen bomb. Her exposure to the Terrigen mist turned Khan into a polymorph with the ability to stretch her body in almost any way, and for a while, it stayed that way. Now fast forward to 2023 and Amazing Spider-Man Volume 6 number 26 with the return of the emissary seeking to sacrifice Mary Jane Watson. Miss Marvel protected MJ and fought off the villain, but while the other heroes involved were busy, Miss Marvel used her shapeshifting powers to impersonate Mary Jane and misdirect Emissary. However, he caught Kamala off guard by teleporting to flank her, and he took her life. Now Kamala revealed her identity to Spider-Man and passed away in his arms, but then in the Krakoa Hellfire Gala from 2023, Kamala was surprisingly resurrected by the Five on Krakoa and was shocked when Charles Xavier, Emma Frost, and Cyclops revealed to her that she was also a mutant, making her an incredibly rare mutant-inhuman hybrid, and we still have no idea what her actual power is. And that's the list. Thank you guys so much for watching on Top 10 Nerd and making it to the end of the video. Good job. I'm Adam Andrews, and I'll catch you nerds on the flippy flop. Until then, stay safe and peace out, nerds.